Excuse me? Fucking Jesus, man. I can't, man. I can't, like... I am so fucking sick.
Dot dash.
Hi.
Okay. Guessing the missiles didn't turn enough or something. Yeah, later. Ah! Right, okay. Not going closer to the ground. Going up. Going up. Go on then! Explain that. Go on. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to chat about the MiG-23M. One of the great things about having these events now is I'm able to use them to kind of do alongside my general spading, and the MiG-23M was one of the vehicles I picked to kind of finish off. I started playing it during the December-January winter event, and now finished it off during this Jaguar event. And all I've got to say is, this vehicle annoys me so much. It's a vehicle which obviously is good, right? It fits its BR, it's balanced in that way, but it is infuriating to play. There is one thing that does my head in when it comes to War Thunder, and that is kind of RNG mechanics or mechanics which really don't function the way that you feel that they should, or the way that it's, you know, kind of is down on paper. And that's how the MiG-23M works. The vehicle is fast. It maneuvers very well, especially with the variably swept wings. It isn't as good at dogfighting as other things, but usually you're faster than those, and then you can dogfight the other stuff. That is, you know, all set up. The countermeasures, you don't get a lot of them, but overall it gives you enough survivability to be able to fight. But the main thing is the missiles. The missiles on this vehicle are probably one of the most annoying experiences I've had in a long time in War Thunder. All of them have massive issues with them, and it just feels awful to use. So first of all, this thing actually gets quite a nice little radar suite. It has the Sapphire 23D TP23 radar. It actually has access to IRST, which is really nice. It's also J-band, which means that certain RWRs don't pick up when the missiles are fired upon them. But also it doesn't matter, because a lot of the time, when you fire the radar missiles, which are the R-23Rs, which are supposed to be, you know, pretty decent, which they're just not, they just don't track, and they just don't hit anything. I had many times with the R-23Rs where I would have a target literally going straight towards me, locked the whole time with the pretty good radar, and guess what? The missile would just miss, even though all it had to do is go in a straight line. We had one or maybe two radar missile kills, and then I just said, screw this, I'm not running these, I'm done with them. Instead, I ran the R-23Ts, which are all-aspect IR missiles. They're still not very good, but they at least have a little bit more range than the standard R-60M, so it gives you a little bit of difference in how you can actually go ahead and fight in different areas. So the main setup I used was 4 R-60Ms and then 2 R-23Ts, because the Rs just annoyed me to no end. The stock configuration that this thing gets access to is R-13s, which aren't that bad. You know, they're not the best, but at least they have a decent boost behind them, and the general kind of modification grind for this thing wasn't really that bad either. I felt like I got all of the decent modifications pretty quickly. I felt I was fully combat effective with this vehicle by the time I was about 20 to 25% of all the mods researched, because a lot of these mods that you have for this machine, like rockets, bombs, you know, even EFS, stuff like that, new boosters, you don't need in the vehicle. All you really need is stuff like, of course, the R-23s and then the R-60Ms, the engine upgrade and the G-suit, and Bob's your uncle, you're pretty good. But the 23s really disappointed me, and the R-60s, they've nerfed into the ground again, and all somebody needs to do is fire one countermeasure, and those things just don't care about anything else about that apart from that tiny countermeasure instead of the huge beefy engines that are around the place. The vehicle generally felt pretty nice to fly. And my stats in it, I think I got a 3-to-1 KD, I got, you know, a positive win rate in it as well, but the fact that the missiles just felt so RNG, and the fact that a lot of other vehicles around this BR of 11.0 don't have that issue with their missiles, made it feel awful to play. So even though the stats show that we did pretty good in it, even though the stats show overall it wasn't that bad, it just felt bad. And that's sometimes what happens with these vehicles. They have specific things that are just annoying when it comes down to it. Another thing is the RWR in this thing is awful. It hardly works at the best of times, and most of all just does not give you a good look at what's actually tracking you, what's being launched, anything like that. This vehicle took a big nerf when they actually started to add in more realistic RWRs, because this one is terrible. Also has the 23mm gun, also bad as a gun, probably the worst gun at this BR for jet combat. You know, everybody else is running around with the American 20s or the Defers or the Aidens or the Vulcan, all better than the 23mm, especially since this one doesn't even have a lot of rounds to it, which is just very annoying. So yeah, the vehicle itself, it's fine. It's a fine vehicle, just incredibly frustrating because there's a lot of situations where it feels like it should be able to do stuff, but it can't. And the most annoying thing about the whole thing, which this happens with a lot of vehicles, but it's just really, really annoying with this one, is you always face stuff which is just better than you. For example, you have the MLD, which is 0.3 BI higher than you, better than you in every single way, and actually gets access to the good missiles, the R-24R and the R-24T. So you constantly either see or you constantly either face vehicles like the MLA, the MLD, the F-16s and F-15s and stuff like that. Can't really do anything against them, and they just laugh at you. It sucks. It really does. And this one, you can't put it down in BR because it would just take over a BR bracket, because it does still have a lot of ordnance and eventually it will work, just not up to the level that you want, and it's still fast and maneuverable. You can't put it up in BR because of its ordnance, and at its BR, it's just annoying because of the ordnance. I really wish that this vehicle, or I really wish overall that changes were made to these missiles to make them just kind of more fun to use instead of what they are right now, which feels like very, very weak compared to a lot of the competition around the place. But we'll have to see what goes on. The vehicle itself is not one I would recommend. Just play the MLD if you can, or just play any of the other vehicles that are around this BR for any of the other nations. The Soviets are pretty good at high tier. They have a lot of stuff going on, but the MiG-23M is in a pretty rough place. If you want to kind of research rank 8 with a vehicle, just pick the MiG-21 SMT. You have much better matchmaking, you have more countermeasures, and also your missiles don't run into as many susceptible systems as well. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.